Hey, welcome to our Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a really pivotal month that saw some major global shifts, ones that reshaped economies, kicked off conflicts, and forged brand new national ambitions.
And that's a great question, right? In a world that's just filled with constant noise, how do you find the signal? How do you connect these seemingly random events happening on opposite sides of the globe?
Well, when you look back at March of 2026, a really powerful theme just kind of jumps out. It was a month where nations all over the world started drawing new lines in the sand, lines for economic defense, for military conflict, and for their own ambitious plans at home.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to explore this by looking at three totally different, but as you'll see, deeply connected stories that show how the global rules of the game are being completely rewritten.
All right, so first up, let's head over to Europe, where they basically spent the month building what you can only really describe as an economic fortress.
So on March 4th, the European Commission drops this absolute bombshell of a proposal, the Industrial Accelerator Act. And listen, this isn't just some boring piece of legislation. No way. This is a total rethink of Europe's place in the world economy. And the ambition here? It's just massive. They're aiming to boost manufacturing's slice of the EU's GDP all the way up to 20% by 2035. That's a huge leap, and it's all about bringing critical industries back home and depending less on, everybody else. To make this happen, they're targeting something called foreign direct investment, or FDI for short. It's pretty simple, really. It's just when a company from one country invests in a business in another. And the EU, they're about to completely rewrite the rulebook for it.
And right there, you see this massive shift in their thinking. See, before the EU would screen foreign investments mostly for national security stuff. Is this a threat? But this new IAA framework, it's all about industrial policy, about economic security. It's not just about preventing threats anymore. It's about proactively building up Europe's own economic muscle.
So, what are these new rules? Well, for any big foreign investment in these key sectors, the investor has to check at least 4 of these 6 boxes. We're talking stuff like limiting ownership to less than 49%, or licensing your tech to local EU firms. But look at number 5, employing at least a 50% EU workforce. That one, as you can see, is non-negotiable. This is the EU basically putting its foot down and saying, look, if you want to play in our sandbox, you've got to help us build the sandbox.
Okay, so while Europe was busy drawing these new economic lines in the sand, a very different kind of line was being drawn in the Middle East. And this one was being drawn with missiles.
I mean, the contrast is just so stark, right? You've got Europe focusing inward on its industrial base, and at the very same time, these long-simmering tensions in the Middle East just boil over into direct military action against Iran.
And this wasn't some random skirmish. The pressure was coordinated, and it was intense. You had the United States launching airstrikes they called Operation Epic Fury, going after Iranian-backed militia assets. And at the same time, Israel kicked off its own campaign, Operation Roaring Lion, hitting military infrastructure. It was a clear two-front escalation, and the target was obvious, reining in Iran's influence in the region.
And this was serious because the conflict monitoring group CLAT, they're the pros at this, they started analyzing what they called the evolution of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. Listen, when the independent analysts start throwing around the word war, a really critical line has been crossed.
But hold on. There was a third major strategy playing out in March, and this one wasn't about economic defense or military offense. It was a strategy of looking inward. So now let's pivot over to India.
Yep. Instead of building fortresses like Europe or launching attacks in the Middle East, India spent the month just turbocharging its own national development. All that immense energy was focused on internal growth and modernization. And if you want to get a sense of the sheer scale here, just look at one single sector, the bioeconomy. It went from just $10 billion back in 2014 to a projected, get this, $195 billion by 2025. This kind of focus on high-tech, knowledge-based industries, it's not just growth. It's a full-blown economic explosion happening all across the country.
In March itself was just a whirlwind, showing how wide this push really is. You've got new programs for women entrepreneurs. You've got AI studies to help prevent preterm births. I mean, how incredible is that? Then there's a major port launching digital twin tech, another airport gets international status, a huge state passes a uniform civil code. It's just this amazing picture of a nation literally building itself from the inside out and at a breathtaking speed.
So what happens when you put all of this together, right? We've got three totally different strategies, all playing out at the same time, on the same global stage.
So let's just break it down one more time. You've got the EU with its strategy of economic defense and its key tactic, the Industrial Accelerator Act. In the Middle East, the strategy was military escalation with operations like Epic Fury. And then there's India with its domestic drive, fueled by that massive push for national development.
You know, to put it really simply, Europe is defending, the Middle East is fighting, and India is building. Three different actions, three completely different visions of what power looks like right now.
In all of this, it brings us to a really big final question. With so much of the world's energy focused on defending turf, fighting battles, and building for yourself, it really makes you wonder, in a world that's busy putting up new walls and drawing new battle lines, who's going to be left to build the bridges? The answer to that, well, that's probably going to define the rest of the decade. Thanks for tuning in.